Welcome back to Effie Barker Human Interest. We are still with our guest, an American TV journalist and anchor for the report by NBC News and QB in New York, Michelle Fisher. Previously, she described how the pandemic had changed her living and her working conditions and its effects on the journalism industry. In this episode, she gives us a clear picture of what New York looked like during the lockdown and what does she think of how New York Governor Cuomo handled the pandemic. Tagged as the city that never sleeps and the financial capital of the world, it was so surreal for Michelle to witness the city being shut down. She just moved to New York in March, still trying to get settled in the city and with her new job. And then the establishments started to shut down.
Hey, Effie, thank you for having me on your YouTube show.
Thank you so much for granting this interview. I know you are very busy. I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to talk about COVID-19. And I know that New York is the epicenter of the pandemic. And I wanted to have a little bit of picture what it was like.
Before I moved, I've been to New York plenty of times. I don't know if you've ever been to New York. Your viewers have probably visited New York before, and the city definitely has a certain energy, a certain vibe. It's lively, it's fun. There are people all over the place, all times of the day. So for about 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks that I lived here, that was how it was. You know, the subways were packed and life was normal, so to speak. And then by mid-March, that's when we really started seeing stuff shut down, around the country when, they started canceling sporting events and just things gradually started closing. So to be here in New York during that time, I remember, beginning of April, I had to go to 30 Rock, which is where our studio is located. The NBC studios are at 30 Rockefeller Center. And that is right in the middle of New York City. On any regular day, it would be just bustling with people. And any way you looked, up the street, down the street, to the sides of you, there was no one really. It looked like a ghost town. It looked apocalyptic. It looked like, you see the old Westerns and it's kind of a deserted town, like everybody's just left. That's what it looked like. So to see a city that's usually so busy and bustling to be just shut down, I think that was really just an example of how this pandemic really has affected our lives and how it forced us all to just stay inside of our homes. And now obviously the city has opened back up a little bit, which I'm definitely grateful for. But, things certainly have changed. You're not going out partying and you're not going to be inside of a venue like you would, 5-6 months ago.
You said that it has been a little bit back to normal now. Do you think that once the vaccine is available, do you think that it will go back to really normal, or the things that have changed will be permanent?
I think a little bit of both. I think this is our new normal, and obviously this is just speculation. I can only think and imagine what was it like when they developed the first flu vaccine? How quick was that rollout process? Were people just lined up to get the vaccine, this new vaccine? Or how did it work? So I feel like everyone's super excited about the possibility of there being a vaccine because that means, hey, a vaccine, maybe this will all just be over and behind us. But I think we also have to take into consideration that it is a new vaccine, that there's still a lot of fear, especially for a lot of communities of color. So I think that the vaccine certainly will be helpful, but I personally don't know if it's going to be this just magic thing that kind of solves all of our pandemic problems, so to speak. I think it's definitely going to take some time. In my opinion, it's going to be more like a couple years until we see really what life was like pre-pandemic versus a couple of months. You think, for instance, like masks, wearing a mask, right? When I can remember first going to the store before there was this mandate here in New York that you had to wear a mask, but I would always wear one. I wonder if they think I'm paranoid, or maybe they think that I'm sick, or whatever. So there was kind of this stigma with wearing a mask. But now, a couple months later, you can buy masks in any store you go to. There are designer masks. You can get bejeweled glitter masks, and it's a part of life now. It's like wearing a mask is the new normal. So I think that is one example of just how our perceptions of things have changed. I think it's definitely changed, how we live and operate and interact with people. I often say to myself, I'm like, even when things go back to normal, I'm gonna always wipe down my groceries now. So I think some of the things that COVID has taught me personally, I will certainly continue to do even as life returns to normal.
Can you imagine working from home permanently?
um I personally can't. I think certain professions lend itself a little bit better to working from home permanently. For me personally, I'm excited to get back into this studio. I think it makes the job a little bit easier, and there are more resources, and you can do better storytelling.
It's easier when there are production staff, and rather than do it yourself, it's really hard. Even on my little YouTube show, you have to put the mic, you have to put your makeup, everything is you are the show.
You are the show. Yeah, it adds, hair, makeup, wardrobe, lighting. Before we got started, I'm in here tinkering around with these lights, and I have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, because that's not what my training is in. But you just do the best you can. And I think everyone right now in this time understands, yeah, this is my home studio. This is my home. It's not going to be this $1 million production. We're doing the best we can.
How do you feel how Governor Cuomo dealt with the situation?
I think he has the respect of a lot of people. And I think that's important in a time right now that the messaging is clear. And I think from day one, Governor Cuomo's messaging for the city of New York was really strong. There was no wavering back and forth. There was no, oh, wear the mask, don't wear the mask, go out, don't go out. It was just very clear from day one. And I think that's important for people to be able to know where he stands. I've never met him personally, and my experience with him has only been pandemic related. But I think he's done a really good job. That's my opinion.
Next on Effie Parker Human Interest.
You had this killing, and it was caught on tape, and the video was really difficult to watch. Now it created this perfect storm, and that frustration that maybe in part was due to the pandemic was just exacerbated by this unjust killing.